The most eventful week of the NFL offseason is not over yet, my friend, and a new bombshell just landed right in the middle of a Philadelphia that is still processing everything that has happened since Monday. The A.J. Brown trade to the Patriots, the Elijah Mitchell signing, the Cleveland and Los Angeles deal that sent Myles Garrett to the Rams. This is the most intense offseason the Eagles have experienced in years, and now a name from this franchise's past has just entered the conversation in a way that very few fans were predicting. A pass rusher who just had the best season of his career, who is trying to get out of his current team, who turned down inquiries from other franchises, and who is specifically waiting for a phone call from Philadelphia. Who this player is, why he is on his current team's trade block, what the 12 sacks he recorded last season reveal about the level he is playing at right now, and why the combination of cap space freed by the A.J. Brown trade and the genuine gap in the Eagles' pass rush turns this situation into an opportunity Howie Roseman cannot ignore. You are going to understand all of it right here. If you are a true Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this rumor could be the next chapter of the most impactful week of this entire offseason. The week began with Cleveland and Los Angeles closing the biggest defensive trade of the offseason when Myles Garrett was sent to the Rams in a deal that included Jared Verse going the other direction. The Eagles watched closely, but could not close a deal for the Brown star that multiple insiders had connected to Philadelphia throughout the entire offseason. And then the Eagles traded A.J. Brown to the Patriots, and the entire market turned its eyes back to Howie Roseman. But Roseman never stops. And now a name very familiar to Philadelphia fans has appeared on the trade market with one detail that changes everything. He is waiting for the Eagles. That player is Josh Sweat. Packer Reports' Easton Butler reported on Tuesday that several teams recently attempted to acquire Sweat from the Arizona Cardinals and found the door closed. The Dallas Cowboys made an inquiry. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers also reached out. Both were turned down. And the reason the Cardinals did not close with either of those teams is the same reason this rumor is so relevant to the Eagles. Sweat has his eyes set on two specific teams: the Green Bay Packers, the other franchise that has fed interest, and the Philadelphia Eagles, the team where he spent 7 years of his career and that he considers his first NFL home. To understand why Sweat's interest in returning to Philadelphia goes beyond nostalgia, you need to look at what he did in the 2025 season with the Cardinals and at the chaotic context that created his dissatisfaction with the Arizona franchise. In the 2025 season, Josh Sweat played in 17 games for the Cardinals. He recorded 30 tackles, and he reached 12 sacks, a number that surpasses his previous career high of 11 sacks recorded with the Eagles in 2022, and that represented the best individual season of Sweat's career in terms of pass rush production. 12 sacks on a team that finished the season with one of the worst records in the league. On a team that went through a coaching change after firing Jonathan Gannon, the same Gannon who served as the Eagles' defensive coordinator during the Super Bowl 52 championship. On a rebuilding team that clearly does not have the immediate competitiveness that a pass rusher at the peak of his career should be demanding from his professional environment. That is the context that created Sweat's dissatisfaction. It is not a contract issue, even though the 4-year, $76.4 million deal he signed with the Cardinals this past offseason still has 3 years remaining. It is a competitiveness issue. Sweat just recorded the best season of his career and finds himself on a team that appears to be moving toward a long rebuild rather than an immediate championship window. For a 28-year-old player at the height of his performance, that misalignment between personal ambition and team reality is exactly the kind of thing that generates trade requests. And the history Sweat has with Philadelphia only makes this rumor more powerful. The Eagles selected Sweat in the 4th round of the 2018 draft, a pick that arrived with injury concerns from his past and that most NFL teams would not have had the patience to develop. The Eagles bet on him, and across 7 seasons, that bet was returned with interest. In 104 games wearing the green uniform, Sweat accumulated 237 tackles and 43 sacks. He was an integral part of the Eagles' defense that reached Super Bowl 52, Super Bowl 57, and the Super Bowl 59 championship. In the 2024 season specifically, Sweat delivered 8 sacks in the regular season and 2.5 additional sacks across 4 playoff games, being fundamental to the championship run that Philadelphia remembers with so much pride. When Sweat went to Arizona as a free agent after Super Bowl 59, there was understanding on all sides that the separation had been dictated by the financial logic of the market, not by any lack of desire to stay in Philadelphia. The Cardinals paid more. That is professional football. But now, with the situation in Arizona deteriorated by the coaching change and the pivot toward rebuilding, the window for the Eagles and Sweat to reunite under conditions that make sense for both sides may be opening again. And from the Eagles' perspective, the argument for interest has never been clearer. Jalyx Hunt led the team with 6.5 sacks in 2025. 6.5 sacks as the team leader in a season when the Eagles arrived at mandatory minicamp with championship aspirations is a number that any honest general manager needs to acknowledge as insufficient. Jonathan Greenard arrived via trade during the 2026 draft, but still needs to prove he can produce consistently within Vic Fangio's system. Arnold Ebiketie and Nolan Smith round out the rotation, with Smith still carrying the weight of a reckless driving legal process and a 2025 season interrupted by 7 weeks due to injury. Sweat would arrive to solve that problem in a way that no other name available on the trade market can solve with the same certainty. 12 sacks in 2025 is objective evidence of elite pass rush production. 7 years inside the Eagles' system means zero learning curve. Familiarity with Vic Fangio and the pressure schemes the defensive coordinator deploys means Sweat would be productive from the first day of training camp. What complicates the trade from Arizona's side is the contract. 3 years and approximately $57 million remaining on a deal the Cardinals signed as a central piece of the franchise's future less than a year ago. To agree to move a player under those conditions, Arizona would need to receive in return a level of compensation that reflects the value of a 12-sack pass rusher still in a growth trajectory. For the Eagles, who just freed up cap space through the A.J. Brown trade, this is exactly the moment when absorbing a contract like that becomes financially possible in a way that it simply was not before June 1st. The fact that the Cowboys and Buccaneers were turned down is not a signal that Arizona is protecting Sweat. It is a signal that Sweat is directing where he wants to go, and that the Cardinals will respect that player preference when the right team arrives with the right compensation. When a player carries the level of influence that 12 sacks in a single season confers in a scarce pass rush market, the selling franchise needs to factor that preference into any negotiation. Sweat wants the Eagles, and Sweat wants the Packers. Any other team is not going to convince Arizona to make the trade. Roseman knows all of this. The Eagles' general manager is the same man who drafted Sweat in the 4th round in 2018, who developed him across 7 seasons, who watched him win 2 Super Bowls in the green uniform. The connection between the two goes beyond the professional. And in a pass rush market where Myles Garrett just went to the Rams, and where elite options are becoming increasingly scarce, bringing back the only 12-sack pass rusher available who actively wants to play in Philadelphia is exactly the kind of move that defines a season before it even begins. With Josh Sweat turning down the Cowboys and Buccaneers and specifically waiting for the Eagles, 12 sacks last season making the defensive argument irresistible, and the cap space freed by the A.J. Brown trade creating the perfect financial window, do you think Howie Roseman is going to make that call to the Arizona Cardinals? Does a Sweat reunion solve the Eagles' biggest defensive gap for 2026? Or does the compensation the Cardinals are going to demand make the trade impossible? To justify? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.